Let's get to our first panel, and I'll ask the panelists to make their way to the stage while I introduce you to them. We have Angela Braid. She is the Vice President of Touch for Life. She is a breast cancer victor. She serves as a Touch for Life board member and Vice President. She is Chief Operating Officer of the Howard County Library System, where she leads multi-million-dollar capital projects and innovative award-winning programs. Thank you, Angela. We have Laura Crandon, who you met just a few minutes ago. She is the founder and president of Touch for Life. She is a former healthcare and technology executive, and she founded Touch for Life, a 501c3 nonprofit organization with the mission of increasing health IQ of BIPOC people and underserved communities, and to eliminate breast cancer outcome disparities. Out of her own journey with metastatic breast cancer, she turned her pain into purpose. Monisha Jackson Shorter is the Chief Marketing Officer at Touch for Life, and she's brought about meaningful change that has undoubtedly saved lives by bringing timely information about the importance of family history, genetics, and genomic testing to the Black community in culturally relevant ways. She is a 3-time breast cancer survivor, and she encourages women to understand their risks, to take control of their health, and to demand the care that they deserve. Mr. Kenneth Calvin is a high school administrator with the Prince George's County School System. He is known as KC, and he has an extensive career in education and administration, beginning as an elementary school teacher in Baltimore, Maryland, before becoming an elementary school guidance counselor in the Prince George's County School System. His advancing career resulted in leadership as a middle school assistant principal and principal. He has been a high school administrator for the past 15 years. So please welcome our panel. And thank you all for being here. So I want you to begin with kind of telling us why you are inspired to be part of Touch for Life and what you hope the audience here gains from your story and the experience here today.
Good day, everyone. So to answer the question, first of all, it's great to see everyone here. Thank you for making time for this today. I don't usually need a microphone, so if I seem too loud, I apologize. So the reason why I'm inspired by Touch for Life is because I'm a victor. Just as you heard, I had breast cancer and was diagnosed, found it on my own. My story is really, I think, one that a lot of people have told me they can relate to because I got the mammograms. I did everything right. How many people here have heard of the BRCA? The BRCA test?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I got that. And so I got the BRCA test, and they said on the BRCA test, I was good. So in August, or actually it was August of 2016, I got the diagnosis that said, hey, you're fine, BRCA, you're clean, your daughters are good. Mm-hmm. Now I was very happy because my mother had passed away. She had breast cancer that metastasized, and I had another family member that had ovarian cancer. So I thought, well, I'm good. I don't have it. I don't smoke. I don't live a totally great life, but I eat pretty good most of the time. You know, catfish on certain days and gumbo on other days. But other than that, I'm a good person. But I thought, and I exercise. And so that was in August, and in November I was diagnosed with stage 2 breast cancer and a very aggressive type of cancer. And what was interesting is that the reason why I found out is because I got the dense breast report. I thought it was fine, and I went to my doctor and I said, well, I've got a lump, I think. And they said, well, go get a 3D mammogram. Has anyone here had a 3D mammogram before? Yeah, me too, got it. So I got the 3D mammogram. They said, oh, we don't really know, still looks kind of dense. We'll do a sonogram with the gel. And just as I'm looking at you, Sora, I'm looking at you and I know that he's telling me, it's okay. He's taking the gloves off his hand and he says, I think you're okay. Come back in about 6 months. I said, okay, fine. God blessed me with a sense of humor. I have usually jokes for days. So I made a joke that said, hey, it's a good thing that the pimple's under my arm, at least it won't show up on my face. No pimple popper for me kind of joke. And he said, well, what do you mean? I said, the gel is still right over here. So the gel's still on, he puts new gloves on, he scans it. He said, let's go for a biopsy. It's probably nothing. Other than that, I was gonna come back in 6 months. So we took the biopsy, and that's when I found out I had stage 2, the latter part of stage 2, and if I had listened to him, my very aggressive cancer would have actually be a different story, and I may not be sitting before you today. I say that to say that the reason why I'm involved with Touch for Life, because it empowers women to take control. It empowers people to ask the right questions. And even when you are asking the questions, even when you're with the quote experts, the doctors, make sure that you continue to change. My story continued on. I won't go on all of it right now, but I kept having to advocate for myself. And so I'm inspired by Touch for Life. I believe Black genes matter. Genetic testing is important. And it's important for us to advocate, to know, and spread the word. And it's a family affair. It's not just, you'll find out today, it's not just about women, it's about everybody.
So I'm here because I believe that my life was spared so that I can share my story with other women. I have been, as Adriana said, diagnosed with breast cancer 3 times. What I didn't know then that I know now is that being a Black woman is a risk factor for this disease. Black women die at 41% rate, which is astronomical when compared to white women. So we are more likely to die from this disease. It's the second largest killer of Black women, only second to heart disease. And so what I tell people, and Angela said similarly, I tested negative for BRCA. I don't have history of breast cancer on either side of my family, and I've had the disease 3 times. So statistically, I had a better chance of dying in a car accident on 495 than I did of cancer. And so there was no science that would have prepared me or predicted my, my diagnoses. And I don't think that's right. And so just like you, I go to a doctor, I ask questions, and they can't explain my illness. And so what I believe is that the secret to our healing is in our DNA. And so that's what this movement is all about, and that's why I'm here.
Good morning. Can you hear me? All right. I'm the only male up here, as y'all can see. This is the second time Lori has invited me to an event, and I was the only male there. But I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that because I'm going to ask you a question. Of all the ladies that are in here right now, how many of you guys know more than 5 close males in your family or friends? Raise your hand. 1 out of every 5 male are going to catch prostate cancer. Ladies always talk about breast cancer. Men don't. Men don't talk about prostate cancer to you. They don't talk about it to each other. They avoid it like it's the plague. Literally. We can sit at the bar and talk about sports all day. No one will ever talk about health at all. Men don't want to do that. And so my story that I share with Lori, when I went through this thing, it was eye-opening because, you know, we muncho. We don't get hurt. We don't get sick. Very few of us like to go to the doctors. Y'all have a hard time getting your male loved ones to go to the doctor, correct? Yep. So I'm preaching to you ladies because I'm gonna need your help because it's something that men go through and we just can't do it. You need to make sure they go get their blood checked, make sure they get their everything done. We got to do this. I'm imploring you and I'm begging you to make sure they get off of that ego trip and go get checked. So in my case, what occurred to me was, bottom line is, I didn't know that I was having any problems at all. But I got a God in heaven. And my God in heaven slapped me upside the head last December of 2022. I was in Florida. We got this thing called the Q Tour. My fraternity, we started a golf tour, just an excuse for us to go play golf all over the world. And it's about 200 of us get together and we go play golf. So last December, we was in Tampa. We played for 3 days, and we have fun, drinking in the sun and everything else. So on the way back from Tampa, I didn't know that I could get dehydrated. So I was on the plane and didn't know that drinking beer is not a substitute for water. And hey, I was being out with the bros. And on the flight, I collapsed. Didn't know what was going on. So when I landed in Reagan, they took me to Virginia Hospital Center and they said, oh, you're totally dehydrated. What I also found out is when you get in an airplane, when you get up over 31,000 feet, you lose about 8 to 10 ounces of water in the first place. And if you don't have any water in there to lose, your body shuts down. So I went through the IV and all that stuff. I'd never been in the hospital in my life. Very seldom went to see the doctor other than when it was mandatory. And all of a sudden I realized something went wrong because that didn't feel right. So I started getting checked. And I went and got my blood checked. And one day while I was sitting at work, my blood lab work came and I was checking my email and I saw 3 little dots on my prostate. And I was like, what is this? So I called my doctor and said, what does this mean? He said, that's cancer. I was like, what? So like I said, God woke me up in time because it was number one, it was 1 on the Gleason scale or whatever that means. But the mental part of it was overwhelming. Just the thought that you got something in your body that could, in your life. And we never talk about that. Now, like I said, I'm a former military intelligence officer in the Army, Eagle Boy Scout. I pledged when I was 17 in college. So I don't get hurt. I don't get sick. I'm that guy. And my mind started messing me up. I started thinking about, when you have metacognition, when your thoughts have thoughts, that's real. That's real. And I started having thoughts on top of thoughts on top of thoughts. And I'm like, wait a minute, what does this have? And anxiety sets in and all those things. But you don't know who to talk to about it. Fortunately, my wife was a 12-year breast cancer survivor. She had stage 4. And we went through chemo with her. And after 16 rounds of chemo, and it was time for her to get the radiation, they said they couldn't find the tumor anymore. And she said, it's done. And so 12 years later, she's still done. So I started checking on her. And so we went to oncologist after oncologist. And good thing about it, we don't have that like Kaiser and all them places. We have the insurance where we can go wherever we want to go. We have Blue Cross Blue Shield. That's great because you don't want to be limited. And I'm kind of got it. I talked about 5 or 6 different oncologists, urologists, and all that kind of crazy. I needed to know. I need to get educated, and that's what I found out about her too. So I needed to know. I wanted second opinion, third opinion, Johns Hopkins, Georgetown, wherever I could go. And we did that, and then I realized that there were some things out there that was less invasive than others. Now, one of the reasons the males in your family don't want to talk about this is because of incontinence and impotence. Because the first thing they're going to say is, okay, this is a slow-growing cancer. Prostate is a slow-growing cancer, and what's going to occur is you can do active surveillance or you can watch and wait. So I asked the oncologist, while I'm watching and waiting, what's happening to the cancer? Well, we're just going to check to see if it grows. Is it going away? No. So what am I waiting for? Well, you might die of something else before you die of this. I don't want to die of nothing right now. So let's go to war. And that's what they will actually tell you. And what they'll do is while you're watching and waiting and you're thinking you got this false perception that you okay, you're actually dying. It's growing. And then what it does is it metastasizes. And it grows to other organs and everything else while you're sitting there. Then the only option you have is surgery. And that's what men don't like to talk about. Because when they go in there and start cutting, things don't work well no more. And when you're in your 40s and 50s and they cutting you up and you got a nice, beautiful young lady over there, wife, and you want for the rest of your life, that's a problem. And the problem is there's living and there's standard of living. And for a man, that mental part is serious. And when you're taking their manhood. So what we did is we started talking about this thing. I started talking about it to all my frat brothers, to everybody I could, and I need you guys to do that. Tell the people, tell the males in your family, stop sitting back thinking that it was something that they did wrong. They didn't do anything wrong. No one in my family had prostate cancer prior to me. I found out later on that they didn't tell me that my mom died when I was 6 and she died of ovarian cancer. But my grandmother who raised me never even mentioned that. They didn't talk about it. It was like, they didn't talk about it. And people just didn't discuss it. They said she died of whatever those old words used to say. It wasn't medical terminology, just make up stuff. And so guys, please, please, if you don't get anything from this message, please make sure those males in your family, those friends that you love, make sure they go get their PSA numbers checked. Because that digital rectum, they complain about that all the time, right? Have y'all heard about that? Where the doctor do these things? Oh, man. Oh, man. We on the golf course. When you say you go and do that, we start making jokes. Because we know it's horrible. But what we found out is they can only examine 20% of your prostate. So if they do the digital rectum and they don't touch 80% of it. So if you only examine 20%, then you get a false positive. So you come back, I'm good, when you're really not good because they didn't see the rest of it. So I know I have a long story, and then we need to pass the mic on, but I just wanted to, my ask of you is to make sure that the people that you love, the men that you love, 1 out of every 5 going to have this. Make sure they check their PSA numbers on a regular basis. Go get that blood work. Go get that blood work. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
So for me, the dense breast really resonates with me. That's how my story started. I had dense breasts, but unlike Adriana, I wasn't referred to any additional testing. What happened to me happens to about 50% of black women. We get dense breasts, and I thought, cool, that sounds fine to me. But what I know now and didn't know then is that that means the radiologist can't see. What they're looking for, cancer is white, and the tissue is white. How you're going to find it. What you have to know now is go back and ask your doctor, what degree of density are my breasts? Because it's sort of like a weather forecast. Clear, you can see everything. It could be partly cloudy, cloudy, or mostly cloudy. That's the degree that they can't see. So it's important for you to understand what degree they can't see, the degree of density. It turns out that I found it myself. It was cancer. I had this thing called biomarker testing so they could figure out what was going on inside of me and the cancer that I had. And genetic testing, I had chemo, radiation, surgery, and a year of what's called targeted therapy, which means once they looked into the tumor and figured out what was driving it, they could turn those bad guys off through medication. But then at my brother-in-law's 50th birthday party, I got this headache that I couldn't shake. And I wasn't a lightweight drinking. It was actually, it had metastasized to my brain. And so I've had 3 brain surgeries, and I've been in a clinical trial, which is why I'm even sitting here and talking to you today, is because I was referred to a clinical trial, but guess what? Most of us aren't. I'm grateful for that. And that for Touch for Life, that's why I started it, is that I realized that the treatment that I got, the access to care that I got, was rare for people who look like me, and I just couldn't sit by and let that happen. And that's why we have forums like this, that's why we have information, is to make sure that everybody else really benefits from the journey that I've been on, and really gets a chance to live a high-quality life.
And that is your panel. So several things resonated with me. And as I said, it's important to me to advocate for yourself. So the first thing I want to ask the panelists is, what are 2 questions that you recommend people ask when they go to the doctor, whether it's a regular checkup or whether they're checking themselves and they feel something? What are 2 questions you felt like, had I not asked this, my trajectory would be very different?
So one is, it's very important for family history. So have you had a chance to look at my family history, and does my family history put me at risk of anything, or do I qualify for any tests because of my family history? That's really, really important. That's also a way that it gets paid for by the insurance if it's documented in your record. And again, mentioned the degree of density in the breast. You've got to ask, what is the degree of density, and how can we know for sure that there's nothing there?
Mine would be asking them a little bit differently, which is I did research once I found out, went through the panic of the C word. What I would say is do research. I asked the doctors, because I went on several, I had like 4 opinions, because I just wouldn't stop. But the question that I think was a game changer for me was, what do you do for treatment, and what's the difference between you and other doctors? The standard answer I got was, hey, all treatments are the same. So I went to the top 4. If you Google the top 4 cancer hospitals or doctors, medical institutions in Maryland, you'll get the list. I won't tell you who they are, but I can tell you that no one on that list made my cut. I found out there was a company called MD Anderson. A friend of mine, my cousin actually in New Orleans, that's where my family's from, she said, you gotta go there. A friend of hers father was diagnosed with prostate cancer. They basically sent him home to die. He went to MD Anderson and lived for 10 more years, a relatively great life. For me, that was a selling point when I went to see them. They have a satellite office in Frederick, Maryland. They articulated everything down. So when I went to meet with what I call the Big Five, which was another one in Baltimore, that doctor, the head of oncology, told me they're just the same. It's just the protocols are different. The protocols saved my life. MD Anderson did one extra test that the other doctors didn't say. And when they did the extra test, they found out that I had a second cancer. We're all grown folks, so I'll just say behind my nipple. And it was a different cancer. It was at stage 0 behind my nipple. If they had not done that, I would be here today saying it came back. So ask what they do different, do your research, and keep asking. And I will tell you what also helped me was this woman at the end of the aisle here, because in talking, we both had kids in the same school. We did not know the other one was going through it. And one day she said, it sounds like, and she used one of her 24-letter words because she's a health expert. And so I talked to her, so talk to people. But the biggest thing, ask your doctor and just realize that if they give you an answer, what saved my life was taking notes, diligent notes, and go to another doctor and ask the same question. Challenge what they tell you because your life, my life, depended on that.
I just want to interject. I totally agree with everything you're saying. I tell people all the time, if you go to a doctor and you feel like they're dismissive, they don't have time for you, think of it like your hairstylist. If you go get your hair done, you don't like it, you're going somewhere else. You just have to. 4, 5, 6 opinions, if your insurance covers it, it cannot hurt. But I definitely agree, and I've done this. I will have a list of questions that I will write out, because when you get there, you might forget, you might be anxious. Write those questions out. If they're dismissive, that's your sign to go elsewhere. It just is.
Poke the bear. Ask. Don't accept what they're going to offer you. There are other options out there. How many of you guys heard of proton therapy? Right. How many people know someone who's been through it? Right. I poked the bear, and I found that at a Nova Shah hospital, they had a machine over there that would do everything that radiation would do everything that surgery would do everything that everything else, and it only take 10 minutes every day. And it was not invasive. I went to work, I went to get my treatment, and I went back to work. They only have 59 machines in the world, 32 of them in America. A Nova Shah had 2. John Hopkins had 1. I think Georgetown Sibley got 1 or 2. But every day I went in there for 39 days in a row, nobody in there looked like me that was getting treatment but me. Do not settle. If you got insurance, go. If you don't have insurance, try to find something where you can get options, because it's about making money too. You got to understand that. They make a lot more money from surgery than they do some of these other things. So make sure you go poke the bear. I got to find something that fits what I do. So I agree with these ladies. Make sure you check numerous ways.
Yeah, I wish we had more time. I'll just quickly add, it's important not only to know your breast density, but the type of cancer you have or the characteristics. So I'm HR positive, HER2 negative, because I know that there are targeted therapies for the specific cancer that I have, and that's you're only able to determine that through genomic testing. The other thing I would say is ask your doctor what the efficacy is for Black and brown people. I can tell you that most of the drugs, Black and brown people underperform on those drugs. So, and my doctor told me that. So when you're considering treatment options, you have to not only think about whether or not it's going to effectively treat your disease, but what is your chance of survival? Because all cancers are not created equal, and all drugs do not work the same for all people.
Unfortunately, we are out of time. I could press you guys for more answers, but thank you so much. I appreciate you being here and sharing your stories. It takes courage to be so vulnerable with people you don't know, so thank you so much. So you heard Monisha talk about drugs not always working for Black and brown people and asking how will they work on Black and brown people. A big reason why that's the case is because clinical trials aren't something that we necessarily participate in. Not because we're 100% scared, although the mistrust we have of the medical community is absolutely earned, but because sometimes we're just not told. No one tells us. Laura, as she heard her say, was luckily told about a clinical trial, and that saved her life. So for our next panel, we are talking about clinical trials. I'm going to introduce you to our two panelists who have a presentation for you today. Ms. Ricky Fairley, she's the co-founder and CEO of Touch, BBCA, addressing Black breast cancer as a special disease state with the overall goal of reducing the mortality rate for Black women. In January of 2022, she started the When We Trial movement to change the game on Black women participating in clinical trials to improve outcomes for Black women with breast cancer with culturally humble and provocative communication that has resulted in thousands of Black women entering clinical trial research. Welcome to the stage. Yes. Oh, thank you. I want to introduce you also to Haley Brown. She's the Director of Partnerships and Programs at Touch, the Black Breast Cancer Alliance, and she is currently focused on reaching young Black women and redefining Black breast health. Is Haley here today?
I think she's at our table.
Oh, okay. Oh, good. Okay, we'll have somebody grab her. Ricky, thank you so much for being here. And you're talking about clinical trials. First, talk to us before your presentation about why is it that Black and brown people are seemingly left out?
We did a research study a few years ago, because I'm a marketing person by trade. First of all, who in the audience are blesties? Are you my blesties? Am I preaching to the choir, or anybody a blestie in the room? What's a blestie? A breast cancer survivor, patient. I just want to see how many choir members are in the room. But thank you for that. So we did a research study about 3 years ago. I'm a marketing person. I wanted to understand what's in the head of a person and why Black women weren't participating in trials. And you'll see from our presentation that there's only a 3% participation level in clinical trials for breast cancer drugs for Black women. And what we learned were two major things. First of all, hey, bump up. The first one is that doctors don't invite us. Hello, Laura was lucky that a doctor invited her, but doctors don't invite us, elicit bias, racism, whatever you want to call it, right? The second, even more interesting reason was that we fear the unknown. No one's ever explained a clinical trial to us. How would you know if no one explained it to you, if your doctor didn't explain it? We don't know what it is, right? You're not going to open that door and go if you don't know what's on the other side, right? And so we got feedback that you're going to get the sugar pill and die. I'm going to get the sugar pill and die. I don't want to be a guinea pig. And so we learned very quickly that if you break it down, explain the science, explain what standard of care is, I want to sign up, I don't want to die. Who knows what standard of care is? So basically, standard of care means you're going to get a drug. You're going to get a drug that's on the market. It may not work that great for us, but you're going to get a drug, and you're going to get something maybe newer on top of it that could be the clinical trial drug. So you're going to get something. You're not going to be hung out to dry to die, right? And so when you do that, and think about it, we said stuff like, you know that Advil you took last week? It was in a clinical trial. You know that heart medicine I give my dog Harper? It was in a clinical trial. Everything's in a clinical trial. And there's no sugar pills in cancer research. You're always going to get something. And when you break it down and explain it in those terms, people, they get it. I want to sign up. I don't want to die. And so that's kind of how we address it.
And as we load your presentation, I also want to point out, and this is something I learned during COVID, because Black people were not participating in trials during COVID either. What works for a middle-aged white man, and that's like the #1 type of person who participates in these trials, does not work for a young Black woman or a middle-aged Hispanic person. It's different. And so that's why I was told it is absolutely crucial and vital that even though we're not being invited, we are asking to be included.
Yeah, and we're going to address that in our presentation a lot. So
Here we go.
Okay, and I can't see it, so I'm going to stand down.
Do you want to switch spots with me?
No, I'm going to stand down here so I can see the slides. So first, I'm going to next slide. Oh, you got it? Or you going to take the? Okay. So I'm going to tell you my story, like Laura's story. So I was a crazy businesswoman, working mom, the whole thing, and all of a sudden I went for an annual checkup with my daughter, and my doctor found a lump under my nipple, my left nipple, and I got diagnosed with stage 3A triple-negative breast cancer, which I'll explain to you in a minute. It's the worst one. Black women get it 3 times the rate, and we don't know why. So I did a double mastectomy. I did 6 rounds of standard of care, chemo, the drugs that are on the market, right? I did 6 weeks of radiation, and then my doctor said, okay, you have no evidence of disease, come back in 2 months for a scan. So I went back 2 months later, and they found 6 spots on my chest wall. So my doctor said, okay, Ricky, you're now metastatic. I don't have any drugs for you, so you have about 2 years to get your affairs in order. And I said, well, I can't really die right now. She was a sophomore at Dartmouth. I said, I got to pay tuition. So me, you, and God and some drugs, so we got to work this out. So I went to Dr. Google, which isn't always the best thing to do. And on the third, and everything, you're going to die, you're going to die, you're going to die, you're going to die fast. On the third page of Dr. Google, I found the Triple Negative Breast Cancer Foundation, which had been around for about 5 years. And I called them, and they found me a doctor in Atlanta where we lived at the time. And she was one of about 5 doctors that were actually researching triple negative breast cancer. And she put me on some experimental drugs that weren't available for triple negative breast cancer yet. I did a lot of experimental drugs, a lot more chemo, and I didn't die, and it's been 12 years. So this is my God job. This is my God job. I got my kid through college, and then I said, okay, now what do I do? And so I really went to work in advocacy because it's so important, because I learned the situation for Black women is crazy. So my blessedies in the room will know this. Next slide, please. Breast cancer is really one of the most fatal diseases for Black women. Heart disease beats it, but other than that, it's really, relative to white women, it's a more fatal disease. We have a 41% higher mortality rate versus white women. We have a 39% higher recurrence rate. We get it back. We have a 71% higher relative risk of death than white women. That's crazy. That's crazy. No other disease speaks to these numbers. Next slide, please. And I can do that. Black women are more likely to die than at any stage, any age, and any subtype of breast cancer. Doesn't matter. We're going to die, right? Which is crazy. Just push the top one. And we have a 5-year relative risk of death is huge for us, way bigger than a white woman. So why is that? Like Black women are 53% more likely to be diagnosed with metastatic breast cancer, which is what Laura has. So you're metastatic off the cuff. Everybody know what metastatic means? Stage 4, you're going to live on drugs for the rest of your life, right? We're 3 times more likely to get triple negative. And triple negative, I'll probably not do a great job explaining it, but basically there are 3 main subtypes of breast cancer. One is based on estrogen, and it's really kind of how the medicine goes into the cancer cell, right? It has like a little hole in the cancer cell is how I describe it. So one is based on estrogen, one is based on progesterone, which you've heard of, one is based on an enzyme called HER2. If you test negative for all of those, it's called triple negative. So what does that mean? There's no little holes in the cell for the medicine to go into. So it's harder to treat, it's really aggressive, it comes back very readily like mine did after a year, and people are dying from it. So we have a 38% increased risk to be diagnosed with metastatic TNBC than white women. Crazy. Now, people want to say it's because of access to care, it's because we're poor, or whatever, just racism in general. But guess what? Black women with good health insurance are still 60% more likely to die of breast cancer than white women. Do you hear that? Doesn't matter. Black women who live in a high socioeconomic neighborhood, have money and resources, have a 126% higher mortality rate than white women in the same neighborhood. So all the things about, she lives in a bad neighborhood doesn't count. It's a horrible disease. And I think Adriana referred to that earlier. The science doesn't work. We talked about that earlier. So Black women between the ages of 20 and 29, look at these numbers, have a 53% increase rate of getting breast cancer of white women with the same age. So it's killing our young women. And Black women under the age of 35 are twice as likely to get breast cancer, 3 times as likely to die. Insane, right? So why is that? Black women under 50 are twice as likely to die of breast cancer, and 40% of TNBC patients are under the age of 40. So it's killing our young women. And as we talked about earlier, there's only a 3% participation level in clinical trials right now. So clinical trial education, understanding of it, and recruiting for it is not commensurate with the burden of disease. So for example, if you're talking about triple-negative breast cancer and we get it at 3 times the rate, any clinical trial needs to reflect those numbers. And I'll go faster, I have 10 minutes, okay. So these are a bunch of the docs that we work with that are basically saying that a white breast cancer cell looks different from a black one. So guess what? Do the drugs work? No. We need better drugs. The only way we're gonna get better drugs is to participate in trials. And that's what we're trying to do. So we actually defined black breast cancer, because when I first started doing advocacy, no one wanted to hear that, even the black people. There's no such thing as black breast cancer. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm screwing up the video. But I wrote this definition, which you guys can read. So it's about the science. It's about the science, it's about the science, it's about the biology, it's about the genetics, it's about the genomics, all the things make our breast cancer different. And the drugs are tested on white bodies. We actually went back and looked at the clinical trials for most of the drugs that we take in breast cancer, and there were no black women in those trials, none. So they're not working. So this is what we do at Touch. We basically educate women and equip them with tools. And I can't change the mindset of a racist white 50-year-old oncologist, but what I can do is teach black women how to ask questions and beat them up and ask for a better care. So that's what we do every day. So we try to take people to and through it. And Haley's going to get to the young one. We have 2 major thrusts that we participate in. One of them is, and Haley will talk about this in a minute, how we talk to young women. And then our clinical trial platform, When We Trial, that I'll speak to here. So we also have a third platform called The Doctor Is In. We have a show that's on every Wednesday night on the blackdoctor.org network at 6 o'clock on Wednesdays. You can tune in. And we next week we're talking about triple-negative breast cancer. And we talk about everything. We have about 5,000 viewers a week, and we have a pretty engaged audience because people want to know. We have a great co-host, Monique Gary, and we just talk about everything, anything and everything. So when we trial, as I talked about it, we don't participate because doctors don't invite us. And our research shows that even when the patient brings up a clinical trial to the doctor, she still walks away feeling unequipped to make a decision. She still walks away and then goes home to her mama, and her mama says, "You're gonna get the sugar pill and die," and can't defend herself. So they're not spending enough time educating about it. And then again, since we've never heard about it, we think we're gonna get the sugar pill and die. Right? I don't wanna be a guinea pig. And we heard this from breast cancer survivors. And there's no guinea pig, there's no sugar pill. There's no sugar pill. So I'm gonna play a video. So I just click it here to make it work, you guys. So we made a bunch of videos. We did our research. We made a bunch of videos. We made a platform called When We Trial to basically educate us, educate women, and educate from the voice of a breastie.
When we trial, we make a difference in breast cancer research.
When we trial, we save Black lives.
When we trial, we defy the odds.
When we trial, we do it for our sisters.
When we trial, we do it for our daughters and our sons.
When we trial, we set a new standard of care.
I was diagnosed with triple-negative breast cancer at 19 years old. I discovered my lump whenever I was just taking a regular shower. I felt something that felt like a rock, and I called my doctor's office and asked them if I could get a breast exam. She told me that it did feel concerning, so she sent me to go get a biopsy done. I got a phone call from my doctor, and that's when she told me that I had invasive ductal carcinoma. So I ended up going to get 16 rounds of chemo. It was excruciating. I've never felt any pain like I did when I was going through that chemo. So after I had my double mastectomy, I did reconstruction. By the end of 2019, in December, I was all clear, still cancer-free. But then May 2020, I felt that lump again, and In the moment, as soon as I felt it, I just started breaking down in tears because I was like, it can't be anything else, and I just can't believe that it's back. I was a radiation therapy major, so ironically enough, it was already my major prior to my diagnosis. So I went through radiation this time, and now I really get to relate to my patients. So my doctor actually did offer me a clinical trial. I was a little bit hesitant at first, just because the only thing I knew about a clinical trial was things that I saw in Grey's Anatomy, and then she kind of went into more detail that it's just to see how I would do, still getting the regular medications that everyone got. So I was like, oh, okay, so you're just monitoring me more. And she was like, yes. I'm glad that I was put into this opportunity because I feel like I was okay with taking the challenge and taking the sacrifice for the rest of our age group, but I don't want to see no one else my age go through anything like this. It's heartbreaking, and it happens more often than usual. But once I got done with all of it, I felt like a champ. I felt like a brand new person. I felt like I learned a lot of things about myself through both of my journeys, and it's like a butterfly effect. We all got to help each other out in one way to get to the ultimate end goal.
So we also hit the road. I felt like social media was a great platform, but I felt like we weren't hitting enough people. So last year we did over 70 events across the country, and we didn't go to health fairs because we're preaching to the choir. We went to hair shows and beauty shows and Links and Deltas and AKAs and Jack and Jill. And we walked the beach in Martha's Vineyard when all the bougie black people are there in pink bikinis. We went to the Essence Festival. We try to reach women where they live, work, play, pray, and slay. And went into the community and explained this to people. And we're continuing to do that. We also recruit a lot. We do recruiting consulting for the pharmaceutical companies. So for most of the companies that make breast cancer drugs, we beat them up. I beat them up every day about your baby is ugly, you're not doing this right, how can we help you? And we help them recruit for trials. We train the PIs. We're working right now in 90 different clinical trial sites to train people, to train the doctors and the nurses in the sites. Stuff like, do you have a black nurse in your office, to make them feel comfortable? In my ideal world, a clinical trial would be in a beautiful Victorian house in a black neighborhood where you walk down the street, you open that wrought iron gate, you walk up on the porch, the beautiful black grandmother gives you a hug, takes your 3 kids into the playroom, takes you into the treatment room, sits you down in a cushy chair, gives you a nice blanket, gives you a cup of tea with mint from her garden, turns on Luther Vandross and gives you the shot. And so until I can afford to do that all over the country, I'm going to just keep saying, you have to emulate this kind of love, because we don't do clinical trials because it's science. We don't do clinical trials to help you find something. We do clinical trials because we want to live, because we want to see another birthday. We want to see another baby being born. And that's why we do it. And the scientists have to understand that's what our patient perspective is. We also have nurse navigators on our team that help coach patients through the trials, help recruit them, and then help them stay in it. We provide a lot of services from a partner, Unite for Her, to make them feel comfortable, to find resources in their neighborhoods, to help them stay in the trial, because we need the drugs. So whatever we can do to make the drugs happen, we do every day. So far, in the last year and a half, we've signed up almost 17,000 black women for clinical trial portals. We've built our own portal, so if you want to find a clinical trial, you can go to our website, whenwetrial.org. You can see a bunch more videos like that, and you can sign up for a trial or even just explore it and see what's available to you. And we're going to keep doing that. So one more video.
I am a stage 4 triple negative breast cancer survivor. I was one of the first people in the nation to join the trial that I did. To be able to participate in that was huge. It saved my life. The drug hasn't reached the market yet, but I'm alive. Without participating, we don't know the true efficacy. We have to participate. Research is moving forward. We don't want to be left behind.
I'll go fast with this. So what can we do better? And I have something for everybody. Listen to patients. Stop using words like underserved. I hate that word. What does that mean? You have a dinner party for 10 people, you don't have enough chicken for 6? Well, the black people are walking by not even knowing there's a party. So I'm making everybody change the language about how we talk about it. We're unsupported. And we use cultural agility in all of our language, making people feel comfortable with what's going to work for them, using words you can spell. Invite women to trials, as I said. Listen to them, and don't dismiss them for doctors. For pharma friends, be intentional about your words. Use words people can spell, and we rip apart their materials all the time, every day, to say, who can read this? Who's going to understand this? And make it better for us, right? And then they have to be, the trial representation has to be commensurate with the burden of disease. They have to do better, and make sure the impact of their marketing. Pfizer did an ad on the Super Bowl a couple weeks ago. $20 million. If I had $20 million as an advocate, or if they spent that on advocacy, it would be a different world, right? That's crazy. So make decisions about that are going to help patients. To my Blessed sisters, fight like girls. Just fight like a girl, like Laura is, right? And be the girl boss of your body. Demand the care that you deserve. And that basically is the golden rule, what your mother taught you when you were 2 years old. Treat others as you want to be treated. Right now, we don't have health equity. We would have health equity if everybody woke up in the morning and said, I'm going to treat others like I want to be treated. I'm going to treat you like my mama. I'm going to treat you like my sister. So this is my posse. Haley's part of it. My other daughter, I just left her. She had a prophylactic mastectomy on Monday. She has those 3 babies. They're 2, 4, and 6, my grandbabies. And she became a girl boss and cut her boobs off to not get breast cancer. Her risk assessment showed that she had a 37% chance of getting breast cancer. Through the process, they found 2 benign cysts on her left breast, which is how I started 10 years before I had breast cancer. So she was on a path, probably 50% risk. And so she cut them off. So I'm done with this. I'm going to take control of my destiny. So get a risk assessment. Know her story. And Haley will talk about that too. So you go, Haley.
Thank you so much, Ricky. I do want to keep us on time. So Haley, I know that you work with young women and convincing young women to get involved in clinical trials. You have a presentation?
Yes, but
Okay.
I can keep it short.
Okay.
You know those moments when, I mean, maybe not, but as a child, my mom would very much like, I have a school project, you go to bed thinking your project was done, you wake up and it would be different. My mom did that with my presentation today, so we're still doing that same thing. But yes, I'm Haley Brown. I'm our Director of Programs and Partnerships. I obviously work with my amazing mother. And really, she got diagnosed when I was in college, so I try to think of what are all the things that I wish that I had known when she was going through treatment. What are things that I should know now as a mother, having had a mother that had breast cancer, because I have a great aunt, grandmother, and mother who were all survivors. And so really trying to educate young women on how they can understand their risk and for breast cancer and take action now. So very quickly, this is my campaign for Love of My Girls. It's all about equipping, educating, and empowering young women to take action. So here's our little video for this as well.
Girl, for the love of my girl. Black women under 35 get breast cancer at 2 times the rate of white women and die at 3 times the rate. It's up to us to take care of our girls. The only solution is conversation. I choose Black breast health because protecting my girls means protecting all Black girls. I unlock my her story by talking with my family about our shared health history to know my personal risk. I get to know my girls as an act of self-care. Are you ready to get in touch with your girls? Visit loveofmygirls.org to get in touch with your girls.
Yeah. The start of my voiceover career, I like to say, so if you need voiceovers, let me know. But actually, some of our Howard interns helped me make this video. So we have an HBCU internship. We currently have 10 interns across 10 different schools right now, but we've had probably 70 over the last couple of years that help us do our social media and all that good stuff to make sure we're reaching young women where they are. And so, like you heard in the video, the need, right? Black women under 35 get breast cancer at 2 times the rate and die at 3 times the rate, but we're not told to get mammograms until we're 40. So when you do the math, it clearly doesn't make any sense for us. These screening protocols don't match our needs. And that just changed from 50 to 40. So we're very lucky that it's at 40 now, but still not enough for us. And then, according to this Ad Council study, 92% of Black women agree that breast health is important. 25% have discussed it, but only 17 have actually taken steps to understand their risk. And so we have to begin to know our risks so we know what we should be doing, what screening protocols we should be, taking part of. And so often, Black women are also so dismissed by doctors. I'm in a situation right now where I'm currently getting dismissed when I just want to get a mammogram. I want to act on my breast health right now, and at 31, I'm struggling because insurance won't pay for it. Doctors are thinking that I'm too young. And I'm like, no, I have a really strong family history. This is really important for me. And literally, as of an appointment that I had 2 weeks ago, I'm still getting dismissed. And I'm trying to live the experience of somebody who maybe doesn't know as much about breast health as I do to really understand what it's like. And it's not easy. I'm literally struggling right now to just get a mammogram. And that leads to us getting diagnoses at later stages, earlier ages, and it's just kind of crazy. And so we took all the learnings from our When We Trial campaign. These numbers need to be changed, but took all of our learnings from the When We Trial campaign. We have, just like that campaign has a bunch of blessings that contribute to how we, run that campaign. I also have an advisory board of young Black women who help me understand how to reach my community and get to where I should be presenting, all of that stuff. And so all of those learnings led to our campaign, Love of My Girls, which again, we go to where Black women live, work, play, pray, and slay, where it's not about going to health fairs. We go very much to concerts and festivals and hair shows and see how we were just at a Black Joy Parade in Oakland, California, things like that, so we can educate and kind of intervene on people's lives. And that is our intervention, really. And it's really, we just give them the tools to unlock her story, get to know their girls. How can they do that? And all of these tools will be hopefully empowering and give them, equip them with the things they need to be their best advocates. And so, as you heard in the video, we have 3 calls to action here. And one of them is choosing Black breast health, right? If Black breast cancer is real, as my mother just stated, so is our Black breast health. And we want all young women to know that. And then second is to unlock her story. Me knowing my family shared health history when I go to the doctor allows me to advocate a little bit more for myself, right? That no one can tell me that it's not important when I'm like, oh no, I have this many people in my life. My sister just got her boobs cut off. This is no joke for us. We take this very seriously in our family. And understanding your risk allows you to understand what screening protocols you should be taking. Maybe I should be getting screened twice a year. Maybe I should be getting screened once a year. I need to know that I should be getting 3D mammograms, MRIs, ultrasounds, not 2D mammograms. All of that information is very, very important. And lastly, we want young women to understand that getting to know your girls is an act of self-care, right? We can build into our self-care routines. We're willing to go get our nails done, our hair done, all of that. We can build this into our routines as well. And so we have an online survey that you can come by my table there later and we can get that done so we can, again, you guys can help me inform my campaign so I know where young Black women are. This is one of my favorite infographics. This campaign is very much designed after, you can see it's very visually fun, but if you are the younger side of my demographic, then you're already doing the middle parts and bell bottoms. The Gen Z is already loving that, so this is kind of like that 90s magazine moment here. So wherever you are in your breast health journey, you can find resources here. And we don't reinvent the wheel at Touch. We very much partner, so this is gonna take you to all of our partner resources. But if you're somebody that doesn't even know what Black breast health is, you learn here. If you are somebody that doesn't even know how to do a breast exam, this links to YSC's Tick Check. It's a great resource for how to do breast exams. If you want to build into your routine, it also links to the Know Your Lemons app that will alert you every month. It'll tell you when you get your period to go get some chocolate. It'll also tell you the week after your period to check your girls, because every young woman should be checking their girls that week after their period, monthly. And this is our Her Story worksheet. When you guys get a bag today, this is actually in the worksheet, in the bag. And I love this worksheet because it goes beyond breast cancer, right? It goes to all the things that are common in Black families. And again, prostate cancer in men can lead to breast cancer in women. Knowing that relation is really, really important. So we had this worksheet to help us to start that conversation that might be really taboo in your home. Because, I mean, there are a lot of Black women, if you ask them about their health, they could find that offensive. Culturally, that's a thing. And so we wanted to have a worksheet to help us start that conversation. I was an elementary school educator before this, so I love a good worksheet. And so we made them for this as well. And then this is our Girl Boss worksheet because, again, we want young women to have the tools to know how to advocate for themselves, to just trust that they're not too young to be taken seriously, to, trust their gut. If you feel something is off, continue to advocate for yourself. Unlock your her story so you're going to the doctor with the information that you have. Just being in the know and knowing as much as you can and taking notes. We live in the years of AI. You can FaceTime your friends, your family and friends into these appointments if they're not with you. And just being on top of things. And so this is our resource for that as well. We're very strong on social media. We have a very, very active life there. And so please follow us at Love of My Girls. That's Gurls. We recently got into TikTok. Despite being 31, I don't use any social media personally, so all of our TikToks are done by I send the videos and I just hope that my people just put them on there for me. But a lot of our interns are very active and they do a really great job of making sure that, again, we're reaching young women where they are, right? We're all on our phones. And so these are some of our cute interns. And then obviously come check out our website. It's a part of the Touch BBCA website as well, but all these resources are there. I have a really fun playlist if you want to go check your girls too. It has some old classics like Milkshake by Khalees. And so just to make that experience fun and inviting and part of your routine, right? Because this is not about being scary. This is about knowing you're normal and knowing what to look for if you are just being in that process, right? Knowing you're normal. If something were off, then you would know. This campaign is also, we're really proud to say that it's partnering with the WNBA as well. So we're trying to be at more games and reach that community, that population. And that's Love of My Girls. And so thank you guys. Come get a bag and then,